good afternoon, everyone. This is Larry Kennedy. I'm lucky for me, I'm actually hosting Focus on Liberia Marketplace today, in addition with my usual partners in crime, Gabriel Carter, Alex Tuffy. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce my cousin. So just want to put that disclaimer out there. This is my actual cousin, Elaine Saba, who's going to share her story. Elaine was recently in Liberia. She's an educator. She's going to introduce herself, share her story. So we welcome everyone to Focus on Liberia Marketplace. It's all about jobs, economy, nothing political. So at this moment, I'm just going to pass it over to Elaine. Welcome, cuz. How are you?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me, Lawrence. It's a pleasure to be here. Real quickly, I am a retired teacher from the US. I taught for 27 years here in the US and then went on to train teachers for 3 years here in the US and went on as program manager for Teach for Liberia, subsequently interim CEO. Right now, I am back to consultancy, which means mostly going back to Liberia to help in the schools to train teachers, do oversight for teachers, as well as train the supervisors or administration in the schools. So I'm just delighted to be here. I just came back from Liberia where I did a marathon. I actually went to train 25 and ended up doing about 100. So needless to say, I'm here, but still ready to go again if I have the opportunity. And real quickly, into around 2012, I started to voluntarily go to Liberia to train teachers because I saw a need to help in the system. I was still active in the classroom and went for vacation and just realized that the whole system, the education system had collapsed. So I said to myself, look, you're just a bucket here in the US. You know, who's going to miss you? Who's going to even really care? But your country needs you. And I felt like for me to have leverage to criticize anything, I had to be a part of the solution. And so that solution today just means for me to going back and helping in the system, helping the teachers to become better teachers.
Fantastic. Let me swing it now over to Gabriel and my partner, Alex. Maybe they can just give us a quick intro or we can just dive right into it. Gabriel, let me swing it over to you.
No, again, as I said, welcome, and it's a pleasure having you here. This is something we haven't really talked about, especially the education part of it. So it's great to have somebody who has, you know, gone back, look at the system and can, give us a bit of insight in terms of, what's working, what's not working, and how it can be improved. So it's a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to having a great discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello,
Alex.
Madam Saba. How you doing?
How are you, Mr. Coffee, my own crewman? How are you?
I'm good to have you, and hello to everybody in cyberspace, those who are listening now, our regular participant, and those who are listening later on. We are delighted to have you. I also taught at the University of Liberia for about 12 years before I left. So from between 2007 and 2019. I initially started as a part-time instructor, they call it adjunct, part-time instructor, and I went to full-time for a number of years, teaching this accounting mostly.
Okay.
So I have some concern about the education area, so we'll see how we can tie all that in with your own program.
Okay.
Fantastic. So the focus here today is actually the state of education in Liberia. And again, if you're just joining us, this is Madam Elaine Saba. She's going to be sharing her thoughts. So this is all based on the recent trip she had to Liberia. So let's get right into it. And we have some slides to kind of guide the conversation. So let me just bring up the next slide over here. All right, so Elaine, what do you prefer? Ms. Saba, Madam Saba, Elaine, or it doesn't
Elaine
matter?
is fine. Elaine is fine. Yes, Elaine is fine.
Provided what we put on the check, you can cash it, right? That's what I
There
always
you
tell
go.
people.
There you go. Elaine is fine.
So what are your thoughts about the overall state of education education in Liberia? I mean, what are some good things that are happening? Some not so good things, challenges and opportunities. What do you see the state of education in Liberia right now?
From the time I started going back to help, it is certainly improving. I'm seeing some improvements, but we still got a long way to go. One of the things I was a little bit more impressed with this time around was I took a very deep dive into the curriculum, by the Ministry of Education, and I saw some improvements in that curriculum. I still would like to see more. I still would like to see reading comprehension included straight throughout the grades, because our children, our people cannot comprehend when they read. And this, I said this to someone who works there. But we do now have what is becoming a robust early childhood education curriculum, and I'm very pleased about that, because if we all know, if we don't get them from the foundation, we're going to lose them. And there's a lot of data out there that says that they stand a higher risk of being dropped out, because when they're not successful, they tend to drop out of school. So I'm pleased with MOE for the early childhood education curriculum that they worked hard on. It's coming along. Yes.
Okay.
But the problem, let me just say this, the problem is
right.
teacher training. And I think you wanted to hear the state teacher training. So, yeah.
So I think you mentioned probably a lot within what you just said. You said there's improvement, especially in the early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the same method that they use in the early childhood that can be maybe modeled into the secondary and college and postgraduate school as well? Because if we have that,
Absolutely.
right?
The methodology of teaching does not change regardless of grade levels, right? So we know that in early childhood, there's lots of hands-on, lots of visuals, lots of feedback. Well, we need it all the way through whatever. Because Alex, I taught honor students at LU last year. Yes, well, last year. And I went to LU for 2 semesters. I was appalled at what I saw. They just showed me that, yes, these are honor students, but they don't have a foundation. So I don't even know how they got there, but that's neither here nor there. So going back to you, Gabriel, yes, we can use the same teaching strategies, the same methodologies straight throughout. What's happening in Liberia now, and that has always been the case, is that most of our teachings, the teachers go and they just copy notes all day. All they do is copy notes. So students, they go in there, they write notes on the blackboard, and students copy notes. That's all. So most of the learning, in fact, I would venture to say 99% of the learning is by rote, by memorization. So how are you going to develop any critical thinking ability, high level thinking ability, when you're spoon fed everything and you memorize it?
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Alex, you want to come in?
Yes. So I heard you talk about now it's good that you brought in the University of Liberia. You said you went to the University of Liberia for 2 semesters.
2 semesters, yes. In 19, let me just give my age away. In 1980, yes.
Okay, so I also went to the University of Liberia, Tottenham High and LU. I went there for 4 years, so I graduated from there. Okay. But teaching at the University of Liberia, you talk about something about the preparedness of the students, right? So most of the time when at the university, I was teaching senior level courses, accounting courses, but at a certain time we decided to move the instructors around, some of the cream that we had, bring them down to the lower level too, right? So bring them to the freshman courses, the beginning accounting courses. And what I saw there was the same preparedness you're talking about. Whether students were ready for the university. Now, this counted the fact that at the 400 level, at the senior level courses, students were struggling.
Right.
Even there's so I started looking and doing some research. Why are students failing? Sometimes you will give the lesson out to them. You basically give them your test.
Yeah.
And they will come to take the actual test, they will still fail, right? So the thing was, then I realized that it was the foundation, whether they had the foundation from down the line,
Right.
and the comprehension.
That's it. That's what I was
Whether
about to say.
whether they comprehend what was being taught, what is going on with them. Then the issue of whether they conceptualize this thing. What do they see themselves going? But what I also realized then was the environment in which they come from, where they're growing, the total environment, the country. Some of them will say, oh, we got to struggle, we got to go with parents, and then we have to go hustle for food and stuff like that. So it was a combination of factors. So when I came down to the sophomore level, the beginning accounting classes, I realized that the students, most of them went to school to find their way and pass the course. So I realized that there was ill preparedness from high school.
Actually, from kindergarten, pre-K. It's Alex, it's that early, from way back.
Yep.
Because as they start to go up, if there's a small gap from pre-K or K, kindergarten, and that gap hasn't been breached, right? That's bridging the academic gap. Then they go on to first grade, and there's a little bit more gap. They go on to second, and it continues. And mind you, it's the literacy. I don't know if you noticed that, Alex, the literacy part is what gets them. They struggle with reading comprehension, one, but then they also struggle with decoding words, phonics.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm proud to say Ministry of Education has brought back into early childhood, phonics. But unfortunately, it's only in early childhood as in pre-KK. I haven't seen it in like first grade, second grade, third grade. Phonics, for where our country is now, ought to be taught. If I had anything to do it, and no, I'm not looking for anybody's job. I'm just saying, if I had anything to do with it, phonics now will be taught all the way to maybe junior high. And you know why? Because our children cannot sound out words correctly. They cannot comprehend. So anything with literacy, reading, spelling, writing, comprehending, I will stretch it out, put a lot of emphasis on it right now. But also, in addition to what you said, Alex, when they get to the university and they're taking tests, keep in mind they've only been taught to memorize, right? The workload now is more. So they have to memorize more. There's no real connection in what they're learning because they haven't been taught any other way from high school down the line to do discovery learning.
Yeah.
Activities hands-on, manipulated. So all the notes are memorized. By the time they get there, some of them are juggling 5, 6 courses. They have to memorize everything. Imagine when they sit down for a test. And Alex, I would dare to say you're somebody who I'm sure your tests were aligned with your lectures. I think I know you better than that for you not to have aligned them. Some of the cases we found, what I found is, for example, on the WAS test, what the kids were being taught were not in alignment with what they were being tested. So you see, when I tutored those children in Painesville, I tutored about a couple of years ago, about 100 children. All of them passed. I did something very simple, like what we do here in the US. I collected all of the old tests I could find, as many as I could find. I created manuals out of them, teaching manuals. And what the objective of that was for them to understand the language of that test. When I was tutoring them, I found out time and time again, if I paraphrase those questions, they will understand it. They will understand what I was asking them. But once I left it in the standardized format for them to answer it, it will go over their heads. So I taught them with
So Elaine,
real. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
it's interesting you mentioned that because in the second half of this program, we have Daniel who's going to be joining us. He's going to share a similar story like that in the second half of this
Yeah.
program.
Oh,
Let me
really?
ask you.
Okay.
So, yeah. Oh, absolutely. He talked about grabbing old exams in order to prepare the students because his school did something absolutely magnificent. We saw this on Costa's show yesterday. Absolutely magnificent. He's going to be in the second half to tell us his story. But you were working with the Heritage International Leadership Academy. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
So what exactly were you doing with them? Was that training?
So yes, so that is one of your private schools, a very strong school in Monrovia, and the proprietress is very much interested in literacy, in moving away from the chalkboard, in, the way we teach here in the U.S., the way students learn, because some of her students leave after high school. Of course, they come to the US. So they have to take the SATs or they have to take whatever standardized tests that they are asked to take here. And so she's interested, she's making sure that the scores are high enough for these kids to get into reputable schools. So what I did when I went there, was to teach them station learning. So station learning, Lawrence, I could teach 15 to 20 children 5 different subjects in 45 minutes. So I will put them into stations, and then the other stations will be maybe not teach, but reinforcements of lessons they've already learned. And my teacher table would be to grab and target those students that were facing challenges in certain areas. That would be the teacher table. So I will rotate them after 15 minutes, depending on how long my class schedule is, my time. And it works. It works. There was a time here in the US where we're required to do that 2-3 times a week. That's what I was teaching her teachers. So they're going to be doing that in Liberia as well.
That is absolutely fantastic. Gabe?
Yeah. So this is very insightful. For me, I think usually when we come out, we talk about the problems, right? Like I think Alex, you and Alex talked about the environment. I think Alex talked about the environment that the kids come from to come to school. I agree with him on that. If you come from a bad environment, you come to school, sometimes you're not even concentrating in school because you're thinking about, whether you got food home or that, the place you're sleeping. You also talk about the comprehension piece of it, right? And in addition to that, you mentioned the literacy part of it. So this is so the way I'm looking at it, this is what is being done from preschool level. The next question, now you guys can say, hey, maybe that's a lost cause. We already passed that generation. We just got to focus on what we have right now and develop them so we don't repeat that cycle. How do we take this model that we now have at the preschool level to maybe implement it to the college level, especially to some of the kids that Alex said he taught, the problem that you guys are identifying, that, hey, they only memorize stuff. How do you take that model and bring it to, not just bring it up, but standardize it across the education sector as well, so everybody is on that same level, so we don't, put out this whole generation of kids that we've abandoned during the war, who don't comprehend anymore, that are going to end up in our private sector and in our economy. How do we standardize that? And what if you were to do that? How would you go about it to do it?
Well, first of all, I will make it a requirement. If I walked into a teacher's classroom, I would not want to see students sitting down and copying notes for the whole period. That's a given, right? So supervised administration has to be trained, first of all, on how not to just teach from the chalkboard. If I had any say so in it. And then I would have, so starting from elementary school, high school, before getting to college, I would have teachers to have to do manipulatives. It doesn't have to be in station. Children learning with their hands, activities, hands-on activities, as opposed to just my requirement would be 2 or 3 times a week for every lesson, every 2-3 lessons. Let me see the activity that they're going to engage in to enhance comprehension. Do you see what I'm saying? As opposed to just writing notes and taking tests or quiz. So that I would standardize it. That would be my expectation.
Yeah.
So even if it didn't happen at the college level, students already have the foundation,
Thank you.
because
Yes.
usually at the college level, you do hands-on activities, but not as many, right?
Right.
You
Right.
already have good study habits established because of your high school, junior high,
Yeah.
elementary, everything experiences you've had. So by the
Mhm.
time they get up there, there's not much, there's barely any gaps to fill in. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you,
Uh-huh.
So,
Alex.
Alex, I'm going to swing this over to you, but let me just throw one quick question out there. So, I saw that you are doing a lot of teachers training.
Right.
You were looking initially to train about 25 teachers. You train up to 100
Right.
teachers.
Mhm.
So, how did that go overall? And how do you measure how well they retain that information? How do you measure that?
Well, for one thing, the training is tailored according to the level of the teachers at the school. For example, I could go to one school and ask to see their lesson plans. Let me see what kind of lesson plans. Let me see the format you're using, right? So I always want to use, I don't know if Alex is, if he's aware, if he's, aware of it, having taught, but there's an old lesson plan that by someone called Madeline Hunter years ago, very basic lesson plan. But so what I did was I went back in few years back, maybe, I shouldn't say it's few years, maybe 2014. I took that model and rewrote it for the Ministry of Education,
Mm.
where I looked at it and thought of myself as a Liberian teacher. How could my question to myself, how can I simplify this lesson plan? So if a Liberian teacher who doesn't have as much training as I've had, who would be able to implement, to first of all write it and execute this lesson plan.
Mm.
So I wrote that, took it, and what I'm seeing now, I don't know whether they adapted any parts of it, but what I see now are just lesson plan outlines. So they're not very detailed. And then I'm finding also teachers are walking into the classroom and not writing lesson plans, administrators not checking on lesson plans. So teachers are just teaching every way they want to, from the winging it from the tops of their heads.
Mm.
Sometimes they take the curriculum guide and teach straight from the curriculum guide. Keep in mind the curriculum guide is only the curriculum is only a guide
Yeah.
to tell you what you have to teach during the year or the 6 weeks, how far you have to go. It is not a lesson plan. So if you are not writing a lesson plan, you're hopping all over the place. And guess who suffers? The children.
Yeah.
So a well-written lesson
Mhm.
plan for some schools, like when I went to the Heritage School, I didn't see a need for it. Those teachers are on a slightly higher level than what I've seen in some schools, or what I would see in some schools. So depending on the school, Lawrence,
Okay.
I would first of all find out
Gotcha.
what is it you need me to do. If I went to Alex's school or Gabriel's school, what is it? What are you lacking? What if you can't tell me? Some people can't even tell me. Then I find out for myself. I meet with the teacher, something, just sometimes just by having them in a room. I know. I pretty much know. Write me a
Wow.
lesson plan. Yeah. We're in this room. In one paragraph, describe this room for me.
Mm.
I have a question, but I'll let Alex come in, then I'll ask that question.
Yeah.
So I heard you mention about some of the students that you taught, they all passed some exam.
Yes, I was asked to go to by Painesville Mayor, and I've forgotten which year. Everything now, there's so much I'm doing, but probably 2 years ago.
Mm.
That first of all, I trained the teachers in Painesville. The teachers were struggling, so I went there, trained the teachers, came back to the U.S., and then I was called back to please help the students. They were failing the WAS miserably, your 12th graders. So I went there, and like I said, I had no materials. First of all, I had not delved into this topic deeply enough to even understand why they were failing. The only thing that would come to my mind was they were not being taught correctly. But it went beyond that. Some of them had like I said, some of them had the information. It's They could not interpret the questions on the test. I found that consistently. I mean, it was huge. So what I did, I like I said, I've gathered all WAS test. You know, these people don't want to spend too much money to develop new questions every year. They recycle those questions, by the way, and that happens everywhere. I came back to the US and asked people in Liberia to please take pictures of pages of the old test. Oh my God. I got so much old test pictures. I took those and put them into a manual and solicited help of a local group, Rebuilders International, to support me because it was just too much for one person. In the beginning, there were 200 teachers, 200 students. After I compiled the materials, I came back, went back to Liberia, found out that there were two schools now. Instead of one school, there were two schools. Another school asked to join. It was too much for me. So I asked Rebuilders, a local group, to assist me, just to assist me because I knew I had to leave and come back to the US. As we went along, the school dropped. Once the one school dropped, the students said they were tired, they were hungry. Mind you, this was after school. But the group of students from the other school persisted. So they stayed on. And all I did with those students, drill and practice, drill and practice. And where I saw weak areas, I will put them in group and my supporting staff, somebody will work with them, go to the table and work with them. And we were catching. And I mean, we were on crunch time. This was like 3 to 6 months before the test, I promise you. And we were on crunch time. We were working those children, working them and working them. Yeah. So by the end of the tutoring, when you ask them to read a question from an old test and tell you what they're asking you, they were able to tell you, this is what they're asking.
Wow.
What's not happening in the beginning.
Yeah, thank you. I asked that question as a prelude to looking at the educational system holistically. You've done enormous work in the US teaching for 27 years, and you've done some work with Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to school in Liberia as well. We all went to school, maybe besides Gabriel, before the war. So I saw, when I was going to school as a student, both in high school and LU before the war, I saw there was this sense of competition, and the bulk of the students were making progress, studying a lesson. There was reason to study your lesson. Now, as a teacher after the war at the university, I saw a different breed of student, right? Because those in school are a reflection of the foundation, the high school, and things like that. Mm-hmm. I saw a different breed of student. And then to capture all that, Madam Seri said a few years ago that our education system is messy. So as an educator, as a teacher, I try to understand why. So you as an educator, what are maybe the 3-4 items that are causing our education system to be a mess, if it is still a mess?
That's a great question.
How we can
fix it. All right. So it was a big mess. I will move the big now and put mess. It's still a mess, but again, it's improving. I'm seeing some improvements since 2012, 14, 10, whatever, when I started. I am really seeing improvements. Okay. What can we do again? I couldn't emphasize more the need for good teacher training. We have training institutes in Liberia, and I have yet to say, and I hope nobody takes offense to this, but I've yet to see teachers that have come through any of those institutions that are just a handful. I shouldn't say I've yet to see, but a handful.
Yeah.
But I still have to train them. For one thing, children are labeled as slow learners. And that's something, if you went through a training institute, that shouldn't even come in your mind, much less out of your mouth. We know children are challenged because they have gaps. They don't have the foundation. Therefore, they will lag behind their peers.
Different way of learning.
Exactly. Because they don't have the foundation. So you got to bring them up.
Yeah.
So that's teacher training, Alex. The second thing I'm noticing, They would rather put the kids out of the school than remediation. Teachers do not know how to bring up a child up to grade level. So if
Mhm.
a child is failing, they don't know how to intervene correctly. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
if I was teaching a third grade child who was still functioning on a second grade level, I will first of all see if it's in every subject, right?
Right.
If it's only in two subjects, then I would develop or create in my school what we call here a resource room. So if that kid is struggling in math or English during those periods in their own level class, I will pull them out, bring them to me, the special ed or special resource teacher.
Mhm.
I will have the lesson plan for the correct grade that that child is on and the lower grade. So I will start on the lower grade and start remediation, right? I will do a little bit of the lower grade and do a little bit of the higher grade. I will keep altering between the two of them until I get that child back on grade level. I don't know if I'm making sense to you.
No, yes, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
making sense. And to me,
Yeah.
it all falls within the teacher training category.
But they don't, that's what I'm saying, they don't have it. So that's
So
a huge problem. You know what's happening now? I read somewhere where in the executive summary, they say we'll put a child out if the child fails. And I was like, what? So if this child keeps bouncing from school to school to school, this child will eventually drop out of school. So
eventually,
how
yeah.
are we as teachers, as educators, what is the support we're giving to this child? None. You put a
So
child or the child
You know,
fails
that's
once or twice.
interesting. That's interesting. So based on that, where do you think the greatest danger or I don't maybe opportunity or the greatest risk in terms of the education system? Is it lack
class.
of qualified teachers? Is it
Lack of
the students are
qualified.
not prepared? Is it just
Lack of
simply they don't
qualified.
have the right tools? Okay.
It's not.
Well, let me tell you something. If you are qualified, teachers are creative creatures. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
One of the things I do when I go to train, I will show things from America. I take things. I go to the Dollar Tree. I go this place. I buy things that teachers can use. I take them, lay them out as hands-on or manipulatives. Now, we're going to find what we can use in Liberia to substitute that concept so that you're not sitting and waiting for things to come from America. For example, I always use a learning tree. It's like a little phone. And students in first, second, third, or even sixth graders, seventh graders, I found they like to use it. They'll put it to their ears and talk in it, read in it, and they can hear themselves reading. And the purpose of that,
Mm.
the objective is for them to hear what readings is sounding like coming from they themselves, right?
Ah.
So it's called a reading tree. I went to the building supply stores there. I bought two elbow, the plumbing pipe that are used in the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
Mhm.
bought two,
PVC.
put them
Yeah.
together, tape them, took them to the school. Here's your reading tree. It works even better than the one from here.
So I have a question, and I keep going back to this, and I'm not. I don't. This is my first time meeting you. I don't. We've never met before. I don't know you. Alex. I think Alex know you. Larry know you. They never even mention you. The question that I have now, right? If you have a program that is so successful at teaching students, I mean teachers, right? And you've identified the problem from the foundational level, which is elementary, and
Mm.
you've identified the arch problem within the education system, which is the lack of qualified teacher. Why don't you consult with the Ministry of Education to say, listen, this is what I've identified. And I think what you've elaborated so far on this program, it sounds like a great institutional knowledge. Like, I mean, like an arsenal of institutional knowledge. Why don't you consult with the Minister of Education or the Ministry of Education to say, hey, I've identified the problem from the preschool level. I've identified that the biggest problem is lack of qualified teachers. Here is a plan. Put every teacher in this country through my program. I will develop this program elaborately, expand it across county, and they can come here. You have a teacher who's going to go teach. They should come through this program. They come through this program to graduate. Then you can place them in school. If they don't come out from here, they don't graduate from here, don't put them in any of your classroom. Why don't you take that plan to the Ministry of Education? because I think there is the reason why I said it, because it's not,
You
it
are
doesn't
so
seem like
right, Gabriel. You are
right,
so right.
right,
But may I just say this, and then I'm going to gracefully slide out of that one. As of in the 2010, 12, or whatever, I visited the
right.
Ministry of Education. I've submitted my resume, I've submitted my work, my bio, everything. I'm going to leave it at that. So yeah,
Jesus,
I have, yeah.
I rest my case as well.
Thank you. As I've been resting mine. So I'm just doing, for me, if it's one teacher I can train who knows what he or she is doing, think about it. They can impact 100 children. Mm? It's the impact
You're
of
right,
that one teacher. So
right,
if I trained, I know for a fact 25 out of the 100 I trained lesson plan writing, how to write effective lesson plan with hands on. And
hmm,
those teachers wrote lesson plans. They had guests in that place. They wrote their lesson plans. They included the activities, blah, 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 blah. So I impacted that way 25.
right,
And the supervisor was there who had to, with had an assessment sheet that was developed.
hmm,
This is what you look for when you go in the classroom. You got to have that lesson plan book. You have to have the curriculum guide. All those things have to be in total alignment.
right,
The students shouldn't be writing on a board, just a little bit, but then you go in the meat of the lesson with hands on. These are the things you are assessing. Those 25, they
right,
can impact what? How many children?
right.
Each one, maybe about 100.
So
So,
I would say this, and I learn, and this is a business idea. Why don't you, because you've talked to the Ministry of Education, they're not listening. Why don't
I
you
didn't say they were
scale?
not listening to you. I said I
Right.
went there at all.
You say okay. I
So,
don't want to get you in hot water.
yeah.
You went there, nothing came out of that. Why don't you scale your model across the country? Because it seems like it's an effective model. Just disregard whether they pay attention or they don't pay attention. If you have an effective model, why don't you scale that? Like when I mean
You mean I think
scale
like
it.
building a business there,
Right,
pretty
right.
much. So I lived in Liberia for up till November of last year. I was there
Mm,
for about 2 years
okay,
as program manager for Teach for Liberia. Teach for Liberia has a fabulous plan. If things happen that I was in total disagreement with, I cannot go around certain things that are not aligned with my values, blah blah blah.
right,
So
right,
then I became interim CEO, and of course subsequently resigned.
right.
Um, the politics hmm, takes away from.
The
I'm a
creativity.
teacher. I don't know
Right,
anything about politics. I don't want to know. I feel
right,
like in every
right.
society you have agitators. Those are the people that make noise and want to make sure things are correct. And then you have people like me who teach the agitators how to read and
You
write.
just want to
And
do.
that's my position. So
Yeah.
I just want to not have to do with anything else but to impact those children, those students, those our students. That's and if it's not teachers don't make money. If we wanted money, we wouldn't be in this business. We are unsung heroes.
Right.
Unsung, we're overworked, underpaid. But again, for me to criticize in Liberia, I have to have leverage. I enjoy what I'm doing. Yes, I do. It's a business, but I'm hoping as more teachers from here, and I've asked
Hmm,
several teachers to join me.
hmm.
But the argument has always been that place there, I won't go there.
That's
This. That's the problem.
this is a great business model, and I think I just want to ask one question, and guys.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
sure.
I'm getting too tense in this thing here. This is a great business model. Now that you've done your due diligence, you've gone to the government, whatever answer they give you or not. Like you said, you can scale it. Whether they listen to you or not, you can pick it up little by little. I know for us as Liberian, those are some of the things we always say. Like oh, I don't want to do what Liberia. I don't want to do this. But I think you have a great business plan here. You have a great idea, and it's not something you have to go and reinvent the wheel. This is something you've done for
Mhm.
over years.
For
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
scale this thing and it become maybe one of the biggest, teaching facility within the country. But I will ask another question.
Mhm.
You know, have you thought about, partnering with the Moravia Consolidated Schools system?
I'm very leery of partnering with any schools or any system just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Monroe, the MCSS has to function under the Ministry of Education. You
You're
see,
right.
so you
Yeah.
can't pull them out of do it the way I know. They have to.
Right.
Like I have even with me, I do not train any schools without using the MOE's curriculum. That is
Mm-hmm.
that we all have to operate under the curriculum. What
Mm-hmm.
I've done recently though, I've taken the curriculum and I've written a guide
Mm-hmm.
just to support the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even told, someone from the Ministry of Education, look, I'm a firm believer in following rules. As a teacher, I have to
Right.
follow rules if I'm going
Right.
to. So what I did, I used their objectives, their learning outcomes, and the contents. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing I did was I put in activities on how to teach it to simplify those lessons by activities. I
Mm.
just put there lots of activities. So any teacher can just pick up that guide, look
Yeah.
at it and say, okay, I'm teaching this lesson. I can use some beans out of my pantry, just a few beans. I can take a sheet, use a black a marker to put the different concept of what solid, liquid, and gas look like, how
Mm-hmm.
those the molecules or whatever. So those are all simple things. I don't need anything from America. I can do it right there. And again, they're reading tree. Just going to a building supply store and buying two pipes and taping it together, and you have it for your classroom.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, so
I
so
yield, guys. Right.
thank you, madam. I think your message is resonating with a lot of our listeners here. So Emmanuel Jackson, Waka Blessing, passed away, Edison Pajibo, Flomo Livingstone, and the other people, just to name a few. And then one of the overriding comment I'm hearing here is that you can take away from the teachers what you don't give them. For
Exactly.
example, so it's like teacher training, teacher training, teacher training.
Yes.
But I ask you the question I ask you, and so far, uh, one of the things that I see that you've been talking about is one of the problem here is, and you eloquently explaining that problem and how we can address it is the teacher training, which is resonating with most of our learning. What is another key? Because I say maybe 3 or 4 items that are problems in our education system that needs to be fixed. And so far, I'm hearing teachers, teachers,
Mm-hmm.
teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the next thing that we're struggling with that we could fix?
Well, but then I think maybe they all go hand in hand. Funding. So if you look at the budget of Liberia, and I was told this by an official, I'm just giving an example. For example, you have a $55,000 budget. 50,000 goes to payroll, 5,000 goes to education. So our children, some of our children, that back in the days, back long time ago, there were schools where kids. I think some government schools where kids got free meals in a day. In the morning, they will get free little donut or something. Back in the day, a lot of those kids come to school hungry. How can they learn on empty stomachs? Parents are stressed out for whatever reasons. So if you mentioned the background of the child, the environment of the child, that plays a lot. So it really plays a lot into whether that child is going to be attentive that day, or not. So if we could put a little bit more money towards education, that will help tremendously. But again, that is a global problem. Even here in the U.S., there's not enough money being put towards education. So I wouldn't single Liberia out and say Liberia is the only one. No, that's a global problem. Usually, there's not enough money for education. Some of those
So,
children, the buildings they sitting in. For example, I help at the School of the Blind. I've worked with them to try to help them to get aid. If you go in the School of the Blind, the cafeteria, the whole roof is leaking. So during the rainy season, you have children squeezing in one corner with dirty water coming down with pans and stuff, and they're eating in the same place. You know, what funding we need more money put towards education. That's I think that's another huge problem we have besides teacher training.
Yeah, you talk. Yeah, that's right. Funding, teacher training, and of course, teacher training will involve funding and stuff like that. You talk a lot about the curriculum. The curriculum has advanced now, so curriculum
It's getting better. It's
yes,
getting better.
it's getting better. It's one of those things. But the teacher training is important because you can redevelop the curriculum for whatever you can. But if you don't have qualified trained teachers to
Exactly.
deliver, all right.
Exactly.
There's an example with the University of Liberia. We went all out revamping the accounting curriculum. We came to University of Michigan. We partnered with them. We put in a new curriculum. We also trained about 10 teachers. We brought them to the States. We went back. But again, it still remains a problem to the point that some of the instructors are not even able to teach the new curriculum.
They're not able to deliver.
Yeah, because they have not advanced their own education to that new level.
Exactly.
So it makes it difficult. So I tend to agree with you. Funding, curriculum development, and teachers training is a high focus.
Those are huge areas we need to deal with.
But how do you see the environment in which the student themselves thrive? These days, high school students, you got we know that when you're in first grade, you're supposed to be 6 years old. When you're in 12th grade, you're supposed to be 18 or 19 years old or 17. What is the problem? Because you're now seeing
how can we fix that? Is that pretty much what you're asking?
The environmental issues.
Well, I mean, the environmental issues, those are all separate issues that definitely impact education. Like I said, if a student goes to school hungry, he's not going to learn. But the thing, though, is that once we can grab hold of education and start a very robust system, students, someone mentioned before how we used to be competitive in school.
Mm-hmm.
When you saw two students fighting, for example, you will see them with blows, right? They're dukesing each other. Now, what do you see? You see knives, right? So how do we begin to change this? All of this boils down to education. Once you make public, and this is a biggie for me, public education, not everybody can afford private schools, good private schools, because they're private schools and they're private schools. If you can make public education where students are guaranteed to learn, eventually the mindset, those children will start thinking differently. There won't be as much aggression. There will be healthy competitions among students.
Healthy competition.
We have schools. If somebody said, I'm going to put you in charge for 1 week, what should you do? I would take principals and I'll make schools compete against each other. Principals compete against each other. So you at this school, show me what gains you've made this week. Show me this. Yes, that's what I would do. Every principal will be held accountable at the school level. Every principal.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Before we wrap up and bring in our next guest, I just wanted to look at some data real quick, because I think we talked about there's a relationship between the amount being invested in education and the literacy rate in a particular country. And I guess and Elaine, tell me if you agree with this statement. Would you agree that the more people you have that are literate in a particular country, the better it is for that country, and the country would lead to economic development? Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I pulled this data and put this on my analytics site. And I noticed that when we go to Liberia, when we look at what Liberia is doing, this data came from USAID, USAID's website. I know one of the big issues we have in Africa is getting competent data. But if we look at it, it says that Liberia is only spending 2.3% of its GDP on education. I mean, It looks relatively low compared to a place like Namibia. So if we look at Namibia, they're doing almost 9.4% of their GDP on education. And I think one of the reasons why Namibia has such a low illiteracy rate is because of how much they're spending on their on education. They're spending a ton of money on education. So,
and a huge portion of that is teacher preparation. Excuse me, Larry, teacher preparation. If you delve into it, you will see that a huge part of it, they invest in the teachers.
And look at our neighbors. Look at Sierra Leone
I
now.
mean, Sierra Leone,
Sierra
IPO has
Leone.
been putting a ton of money in education.
Mhm.
But when you look at some of the countries in the bottom, looking at places like Mauritania, places like Guinea, we can see why some of these countries are having issues. Elaine, what do you think when you look at this infographic? What does it say to you?
It says to me that education is not a priority, and it's just hence this low number of literacy. That's what it says to me. There's no priority. Education is not being prioritized. So
Well,
I mean, I don't. I'm not a political person. I don't. All I know is
no,
that if you don't give us money and don't prepare our teachers, and Sierra Leone, I'm just blown away with Sierra Leone. I'm blown away. So
another chart and people joining us. We have also brought into the studio Daniel. Daniel is going to be joining us for the second half of the marketplace. I know we had Miss Elaine with us for about an hour. So before we swing over to Daniel, who's going to, and I don't know, Elaine, if you want to hang out a few more minutes or if you want to, I know you say you had to.
I would like her to stay. I want her to stay. Can you please stay, please?
Daniel, just for a few minutes, because I have to. I told Lawrence I have to go somewhere. I have to be somewhere at 5, but I can stay, Daniel, for a few minutes just because of you, just for a few minutes, and then I really have to go.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm just going to swing it now over to Gabriel. I don't know. We're just going to swing it to Daniel to introduce himself, tell us why he's here, his story. I heard about Daniel watching Costa's show yesterday. I was amazed, absolutely amazed. I mean, I posted a comment that altruism is still alive because what he's done is completely altruistic. So I don't know, Gabriel, we're just going to let Daniel introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
Yeah. Yes, please. Welcome Welcome here. Introduce yourself, please.
Right. Yeah, my name is Daniel Manya, and I'm related to Pharaoh Ramsey III, the Pharaoh of Egypt. And that's not a joke. That's a real thing because I did my DNA analysis, and I share ancestry with him. So as do most Liberians, nearly all Liberians, the Bantu expansion. So you're talking to royal. So that's a joke.
It makes all of our royals, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, because the West Africans came from the Nile Valley civilization years ago, but it did well for me. It did something to my ego. But anyway, my name is Daniel. Excuse me.
Then we got to send you back to your country.
Can you let the guest introduce himself?
No, it's good. It's all good. But anyway, I'm from Grand Bassa County. Now they call the area Riverside, but that was part of Grand Bassa County in Moe. I went to school in a little village there named Gozon, to the Wawa Mission School there in the 70s, 1974 or something like that. My father sent me there because he was afraid I would be a grown-up boy in Monrovia. I grew up on Merklin Street. Coconut plantation, we were the Zoko back before there were any Zoko. So this is the early 70s.
You're Gbana.
Mana Zoko, exactly. I was a Mana Pekin. There you go. But anyway, so from there, I came to Monrovia, went to Tottenham High, graduated from Tottenham High, and worked a little bit, saved up some money, and came to the United States. And I went to San Diego State University and graduated with a bachelor's in accounting and a master's degree. And I went to work for the school system in the United States. I worked as a fiscal service director for a couple of school districts, San Ysidro School District, County Office of Ed, San Diego, Tamalpayas, and I was a controller for Oakland Unified School District. And I handled a 700. I hate to talk about these things because it sounds too arrogant, But I was the controller in charge of a budget that was bigger than Liberia, a $700 million budget. That's what I handled. And I retired. So when I retired, two things happened. The first thing was we built a school in Oakland. We called it La Escalita. By the way, anybody wants to know, check me out. You can Google my name and the districts and the places that I have worked. My name will pop up. so you can verify what I'm saying here on the radio or on the air. So we dedicated a school at Oakland Unified, and I think it was like $100 to build it. So I went to Liberia, to my village, and I saw the kids sitting on a bamboo stick in this little thing they call a school. And I asked the gentleman in the village, "What is that?" And he said, "That's a school." And I said, "Man, you're joking me." He said, "No, that's a school building." He said, "Come back tomorrow, you'll see the kids." And sure enough, when I came back the next day, those kids were sitting jam packed, no desk, nothing. They sit on a bamboo stick. And the teacher, there was only one teacher, Arthur Zoga, one man teaching, I think 4 classes in our whole village.
Wow.
And it hit me. It was hurtful. And
This
so
was in Grand Bassa.
Excuse me?
This was in Grand Bassa.
Yeah, this is in Riverset, in Moet, okay, in the Moet region. It was there. And then brother, the school that I saw, that's how all the school were, because I was able to go to other villages, other towns, Bojise town, Bodohuye town, Yapa town, all those places. All the school were like mud building with no chairs and nothing. And so this was, I think it was 2009 or something, 2009, 2010, one of those years. And that's what started it. But before that, the inspiration came from 1998, 10 years earlier. And I had gone to Liberia to take care of my mom who took sick. And after taking her from the hospital, I went to Tottenham High. I always go to Tottenham High to check out, the building back in the days, just reminisce. So on my way to Tottenham High School, I saw these 5 kids walking the street. One of them was crying. They were in the uniform, white shirt and khaki pants. So I told the taxi driver to pull over. So he pulled over, and I asked one of the kids, I said, why aren't you in school? And the little boy's crying, because they pulled us out and we don't have school fee or whatever. And then I said, no. So to make a long story short, I took them to Don Bosco and paid their school fee. And I told the principal, every year I'm going to pay these kids school fee until they finish school. So don't put them out next time. So I did that for a couple of years. They graduated, and that was the end of it. And then I think what 2000, one of those years, one of the kids Googled my name, and my name popped up.
Right.
So then he called me, and then he introduced himself, and I said, "I don't remember you." He said, "No, you should. You sponsor me." I said, "I sponsor a whole lot of people in Liberia." He said, "No, man." He said, "Mr. Mayor, you did sponsor me," and then it just dawned on me. And I said, "Oh yeah, there were about a couple of you." He said, "Yeah." So I said, what did you do?" He said, "I went to school and I finished high school. I went to college. I graduated. I got my master's, and I'm a banker." And I said, "That's great." And I said, "What about the other guys? What about your other friends?" He said, "Well, Keith went to school, graduated, and got a doctorate degree, and he's a medical doctor." And that's when I burst up in tears. Yeah. And I just started crying. He said, "No, Mr. Mayor, you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. Anyway, to make a long story short, it was those two incidents that started me off on this journey.
Yeah.
To be a controller, managing 700 million budget, building school, the average school, the lowest school is at 40 million to, between 40 to 80 millions. And then go in your own village and see your own people sitting on bamboo sticks in the classroom. And then making sure that, reflecting on the fact that there was a kid that didn't have a tuition. And you're talking about $100 a year. Come on, guys, $100 a year. And that $100 a year, the investment of $100 a year for 5 years, the $500 investment produced a medical doctor. And let that marinate.
So thank you. I think that's quite a resume. And again, this is my first time meeting you. Welcome to the show. I have a question. The budget that you're managing for the 700 million, was it here or was it was it here? Was it the schools here?
What do you mean?
the 700 million as
No,
a
it was
controller was it
the
for a school?
Oh,
California.
it's a school budget when you're running
Okay,
a school.
so
Yeah,
right.
when you're running a school district, let me just explain myself. Let's take Tottenham High, or
Right.
let's take the MCSS system. There is a budget that is set up to pay all of the teachers on time, to pay the benefits and all of that stuff, buy of school buses and all of that stuff. The total for Oakland Unified School District, we have 50,000 students.
Right.
We have 7,500 employees. And that the budget to run that school district was $700 million. That's where that comes from.
Quite impressive.
And then the construction, that is the school facility program, was 1.5 billion. That's separate from your operational budget.
Right.
So $1.5 billion to build the schools,
Right.
run the school, and educate 50,000 students.
Right.
And then $700 million to pay teachers and stuff. And this is one school district. Just one school district in the state of California.
Yeah.
The state of California earmarked 40%, between 30 to 40% of its budget to education.
Wow.
So, and I go to Liberia and I see what is happening, and you respect these people, and I get nervous and I keep my mouth shut. I just bury myself and do what I have to do, but it hurts to see the disparity between education and all the other stuff that's in the budget. But I try to shy away from politics, but you can't help it because politics stare at you even if you try to run from it.
It impacts everything we do. Whether you want to stay away from it, it will catch you.
Yeah.
Right.
Politics drive everything in our country.
Larry.
So I want to share this photo that I got from Daniel. And Daniel, you kind of tell us the story behind it. So I don't know if our engineer can share my screen that shows the old school building, where you can bring it up for the audience to see, because it's so important. So this was the school building.
Yeah, that's what I saw. You saw me standing there. That's me standing there. By the way, I told the man, don't take my picture. He kept doing that because I was crying. The guy said, that's a school building. I said, so I was standing there, and he said, come back tomorrow. And I came back, and that's what I saw. You see those kids sitting there? Yeah.
Right.
That was a school building.
And then later on, we're going to show some of the photos of the work that you've done. So let me just swing it over to Alex while I load up those photos. I mean, it's amazing.
Daniel, which part of Liberia is that school?
That school is 88 miles from Buchanan. Is behind Lot. So it's like when you go into the forest all the way in Moe, it's not far from Tapeta, but it's smack in the middle of the rainforest, near the Wee Forest there, over there by Bodo Huyetan, Bojisetan, and goes on. That's where the school is located. It's 176 miles away from Monrovia, 88 miles from Buchanan, so way in the bush.
Wow, that's very precise.
Yeah, well, because I drive that road, I drive it all the time. I drive that Moe road. But I just wanted to, so basically, I don't know how you guys want to do. You want to ask a question, or you want me to talk about the school, or how? So it's up to you guys. What format? By the way, Mr. Kennedy, you look better in person than you sound on the phone. You look, yeah.
You're too kind.
That was a great tangent. I like that.
Let's have a conversation. don't get these other two guys started, man. Don't get us started.
Larry is a handsome guy in person, then he's on the TV.
You see,
he was very technical. He was very technical. I was trying to see this nerd. I was looking forward to seeing a nerd, but then I see this guy. I said, oh. But go ahead.
You guys well, Larry, take it away. How do you want to go about this?
But so here's the thing that besides the, what Daniel has done in terms of, the work he's done with the school and all that stuff, and we're going to see the building. I mean, look, this thing is amazing. What is even more fascinating is how well the students at this particular school did on the WIC exam. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing was when the kids started taking the Y the first time, we didn't get the grades because for me, working in the education system, the test is just to see whether or not the kids are getting the prescribed curriculum, to see if whatever the Minister of Education prescribe and say, hey, by the time the child is in the 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade, this is what they should know. That's what the test is, like a yardstick. It's just to measure whether or not these kids are getting what you're teaching. So the first year, that was a couple of years ago, the kids went to Sesto City. They sat for the exam. We didn't get the result. We still don't know what the result is. So then it went last year. They took the exam, and only 2 kids failed. Two kids out of the 42 students we sent, only 2 kids failed. And we got that result, and I said, that's not going to happen. So then I went to the Ministry of Education, and I asked for the curriculum, the prescribed curriculum. You know, sadly, in Liberia, the people are teaching A, and they're testing on Z. And then somewhere in like maybe LMN is the prescribed whatever curriculum. And we need to, all of the educated people in Liberia, we need to find a way to bring that together so that teachers can be equipped to know how to teach and what is required of these kids, so that you don't have people like me going to ask the question, because that's one of the things that I did. I went to the Minister of Education and said, hey, what are you expecting from these 3rd grader, 6th grader, 9th grader, and 12th grader? Right. And to get that information was like extracting the teeth. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody under the bus, but at least that information should be readily available for everybody. Anybody coming wants to educate in Liberia should be able to go on a website, download that information. Hopefully they've done it. But anyway, I was able to get that information. I got the curriculum, and then I was able to get the old exam. Right. And based on that information, I met the teachers in the school that's called Desibopa Academy. I sat with the teachers and I said, these are the old exam. Now we need to develop a teaching method to make sure that the kids understand this. So that was the start. And then I took some math and science, language, art, literature, and educational instructional material, so that the teacher can supplement that with the teaching. So that's number 2. Number 3, we had Saturday classes. So the program was during the week when you're teaching, lecture for at least maybe 30 minutes and test. Lecture, 30 minutes and test. And the testing should not be, oh, you flunk or you fail. Right. The testing is for you, the teacher, to see what you had just taught, if the kids gets it. So the kids are not the only person being tested. You, Mr. Teacher, you're being tested also. Actually, so that's a great way. So the good news is the teachers at our school, they got it. They got it. And they work.
So let me ask you, Daniel, do you think this is something that can be scaled throughout the school system in Liberia?
Yes.
I mean, using your program. Okay.
Yes. Let me tell you something. And this is, people going to think I'm arrogant. The lady that you had on, myself, there's a guy named Eric Wawa. There are a few other people in it. You're not going to hear about them. They're in the trenches. You never heard about me in Liberia. The only reason I'm on the air is because our kids did so well. If not, I wouldn't want to be on the radio, but we have the solution. The United Nations does not have the solution, not the United States. The solution is in each one of us. We can solve our problem. And if the U.S. ambassador be hearing me, I'm not insulting you. I'm just telling you, you don't have the solution for me.
You're speaking my language, sir. You're speaking my language.
I know what we know what to do. So if you want to help us, give us the funding, and you can come and audit us. Give us the funding. Get out of the way. United Nations, get out of the way. United States, get all these foreign NGOs that you see, get out of the way. Go look for Eric Wawa. Look for Daniel Mayon. Go to look for those schools, the teachers that are there. Some of those teachers have been there since the war. Nobody knew about them, but they're there teaching. Those are the people. Grab them, bring them to Monrovia, train them, and send them back.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the secret. The secret for the success. All those teachers are from Monrovia. We're working with them. We're training them. And I get emotional about this because I've seen so many people, like, they would talk to me and say, man, did you get any money from Oprah? Have you got it? Why didn't you go to the U.S. Embassy? Why didn't you call Bill Gates? They don't give money to people like us. They give money to government and organizations and people they know, because their whole thing is they're looking for how do you call it, well-established groups. We're in the trenches. We don't we don't, you know what I mean? We're like, we're the guys that, you know, when you watch the honeybee, we're the one really, you know, like carrying the going into the back,
right.
yeah, and getting the honeybees and carrying it. That's what we're doing. We got no coverage. There's no coverage. So anyway, the secret was, go ahead.
No, so real quick, sorry to interrupt you. So Elaine just said pretty much the same thing you just said in terms of how she prepares students for the WAC exam.
I've never heard about her. I've never seen her. I've never seen her. I never saw. That's what I'm saying. People like that, they have the answer.
Yeah, she said they were taking pictures of the old exam and they were texting it over to her, and she was using that because just what you said, you can't find old copies of these exams. It's not like the SAT and some other exams over here, but other countries are doing it. Other countries are uploading some old exams for their students. Somehow we don't have those old exams. What is fascinating also, and then I'll swing it over to Alex to come in, is I mentioned this on a call with the team over here. I said, you know why ordinary Liberians do not get the funding, like what Daniel is saying, you know, the Bill Gates, the USAID, and all, because the American government gave these contracts to NGOs that are well established, the Tetra Tech, the ABT Associates, the guys who are running the grants right now for the finance ministry. These are all the big players, but the FHI 360. But these guys don't have a skin in the game.
Right.
Daniel has a skin in the game because
how many schools have they built? How many schools have any of those people built? How many new schools over the past 40 years? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And what is so fascinating, you can share some of these photos. The school that Daniel put up is coming out of his pocket. I mean, he's been raising some money, and you know, I mean, his phone number is up there. We want to kind of, people want to get in touch with him, can do that. But I don't know, Gabriel, if you can share, and then Alex, you can take it so we can share some of the photos so people can see why it is so amazing. He's been doing this stuff for over a decade. Never heard about it.
Right.
So the Daisy Popeye Academy, look at the students, the uniform. How do they get the uniforms, Daniel? Tell us about that. I heard you talk about it yesterday.
My wife and I, we buy those uniforms. This is the only school in the entire Republic of Liberia that offer free education. We don't charge, we give them the uniform. They don't pay no school fee, no registration fee. We give them all those chairs they're sitting in. We ship those out of pocket. Right now, as I speak, there's a 400 chairs that is donated. Same chair like these that were Friday. I'm going to Oakland to ship them. The kids, the requirement is just show up. That's all. Come from the village. What is your name? See here. Look at the kids. All that uniform we sew it. When you register, we measure you. A tailor come from Monrovia and come and sew all those uniforms for them for free. So it is free, free. Zero out of pocket, zero from the parents. You live in a village, just show up. That's it. We register you and you enroll. We test you though to know what grade to put you in. But it's completely free.
But look at the building. Look at the building. Look at the interior of the building.
That's my salary from Oakland Unified School District. Yeah.
Is that building? That building looks similar to the University of Liberia, right?
That building inside of it look better than the University of Liberia campus.
My man, don't go there. Let's just leave that one aside. Let me swing it to Alex. Alex, talk to our man Daniel over here. Wow.
Can you show more of the pictures?
Yeah, those chairs come from America. We ship them from here.
Look at the windows.
Wow. Yeah, all the windows, every windows on that campus is sliding glass window. There's no bamboo window, nothing. Here it is. Yes.
So this is the school in Riverside that made the 100% passing grade in the recent YSC.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow,
amazing.
This should be celebrated, right?
And
so you have no connection with government or anybody? It's a private initiative. Okay.
No, this is private. This is 100% private. And the only thing we were asking for the government, and we're still waiting to hear from them, is we're going to have we have 10th graders, so we're going to have 11 and 12th grade coming, and we need teachers. We need high school teachers. We want the government to give us 5 teachers. We've been asking for this for the past 3 years. We have contacted the Minister of Education. We contacted the Deputy Minister of Education. We contacted the senators, the superintendent, the chief, what they call a CEO, Chief Education Officer, District Education Officer, District Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent. We have called and asked and asked. We need teachers. We need teachers because we're not charging school fee. These kids are going to school for free. And we wanted to form partnership with the government to give a teacher, and we're still trying to reach out to them.
People that are on the government payroll. Teachers that are on the government payroll.
Exactly, because we paying our teacher. We paid our teacher out of pocket. My wife and I, we're using our pension money. I'm retired, so I split my pension money. Half go to pay my bills, and the other half go to pay the teacher's salary. And then for construction, I came out of retirement, and I'm working as a fiscal service consultant. And the earnings that I'm getting from it is what we're using to put these buildings up. So the burden is too heavy on my shoulder. I had wanted I talked to Mrs. Salih when she was president because I wanted to pitch this idea and say, look, my Ellie, if we can duplicate this, we can use my campus as a pilot. We can duplicate it across the country where you start from the grassroots, go to Kolahum, meet with the people, get a land, train some of the people from there to be teachers, and then build a school there. And then you move to the next town and you do that across the country. We can wipe out illiteracy out of the country. We can do it in 15
one of the
years.
biggest challenges too with students with kids coming to school is they're hungry.
Yes.
They're hungry. It's hard to study on an empty stomach.
Right.
And I see the kids over here at your school,
no, we don't feed them. What? And I wanted to make that correction. This is test.
I bring that in.
No. Today, no. This is good. Today, when we took this picture, that was test day. During the test week, we feed them.
Oh.
But during regular school hour, they bring their own lunch. So what we're trying to do now is we are trying to set up a microfinancing program, so the parents can have an agriculture program, so we can feed these kids every day. So that's the next challenge. But during test day, we feed them.
Wow.
So now we have, just to tell you what the goal is, now we have 100% passing rate. We're looking at the academic performance and academic excellence so that they can do the wire exam. So that's the second goal. The third goal is we have to make sure that when the kids graduate from our school, they can perform anywhere on planet Earth. So to do that, I have right now, as I speak, we have 11 flat screen TV, 65-inch flat screen TV for all of the classroom. We're gonna have laptop, and we're gonna start teaching. We're gonna combine digital teaching. This is a biology. So I got about 30 DVD video for biology in action, so the kids can watch it. If you're talking about self-division or whatever self-division, they will see the video in animation. They will see. They will, like, let me give you an example. Like, oh, I'm sorry, this is physics. This is magnetism. They're going to be talking about Albert Einstein, the forces that he talked about. They're going to watch it in action. This is Newton's law, Isaac Newton. So you're not just going to be listening to the physics teacher, then you will be hearing it from the mouth of the expert.
Wow.
Shit. Yeah.
The theory of relativity, huh?
Thank you. This is energy, what it is, right? And this is friction. Then for the preschool kids, we're gonna go back, and the emphasis is going to be on phonics. So instead of doing
Elaine mentioned that as well.
Yeah, phonics.
Instead of doing SSO, GeoGo, LLO, whatever it is, these kids are going to understand what the sound of the alphabet is. C is k, k, k.
Right.
A is T is t, t, t. So you put on the both C and T. I said, you tell them combine it. And then our child will say cat.
Yeah.
So we have the DVD. We have all of these to help them. You will see animation. They're going to see this right here is about 30 DVD in here because there's 2 DVD per package for from ABC to like maybe the 1st grade. In here, the kids are going to watch video about shape. They're going to see video about the colors and everything. And they're going to see what they call sight words. So this is starting from ABC. And then we're going to go all the way to high school. When you get to the high school level, this is algebra. You're going to see algebra in action, and you're going to see the science behind algebra. So let's say for solving the unknown. What is that? You're going to show them a movie. This is what you're looking for.
That is amazing. You cannot do calculus without algebra. You cannot do computer science without algebra. You can't do any of those things. And we know the world runs on computer science. You need algebra as a foundation.
And they got to see it. They got to see the connection. So this is algebra. And I brought one for physics.
This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And then here's more. The kids got to know their shape. They will see the video. They watch the video. The video will talk about triangle, square, octagon, or whatever it is. They're going to watch it right here. And then for biology, I have it here anyway. I got about 100 and I get excited when it comes to education.
You look like you're excited already.
So I brought one about and then you have science. Yeah, you take science. You see the math here. You put that in animation. See here. So the kid's gonna watch this.
Right.
They're actually gonna watch this. See the professor there with the glasses. So we have our teacher, but we also have this professor. This guy. Where is this? Yeah, right here. The professor right here.
Right.
They're gonna watch him. And there's more. There's more here. And so these are merely supplement. Oh, I lost them. Is everybody
No, we can see you. We can see you. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, okay, hold on. So there's more here.
And this is the kind of STEM program we hear all the time in the U.S.
Yeah. Yes. So this is sight learning. This is another one right here. And I brought a biology one, but it's somewhere. Oh, here they are. See, here they are. So this one here, my brothers, this is physics. They're gonna learn
the
law of relativity, and they're gonna watch in motion how matters bend space.
Yeah.
They're gonna learn about the terminal velocity. Why when the car get on the bridge, you hear ruck, ruck. That's because the metal concrete expand and contract during certain time. They're gonna see it in picture. They're gonna watch the picture. So physics, we take the fear out of that word physics and we make it practical for them to see it. So I got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 video, which is 8 times 2 is about 16 video on physics, on the law of physics. They're going to be learning the law of physics, all the math.
Quite a lot.
See the math in action. So that's physics. Then I have one for chemistry.
And Daniel, one thing I'm reading the viewers' comments over here. Reggie Nassau is saying this is how we can develop Liberia through education, because education is like the kindling, the little wood of flame.
Yes.
So this is how you also envision it. We can develop Liberia.
Yes, because let me tell you what happened. I came from the bush. I was 10 years old before I learned how to speak English. I didn't have shoes on, and I went to become controller of one of the largest school districts in the United States.
Yeah,
it's all about education, even with my accent.
Yeah.
So when I speak fiscal issue, the people listen. They don't see, the guy came from the bush. Well, I fully meant from the Liberian, but they'll say, this guy's going to get this district out of trouble. You better listen to him. That's knowledge. That's education. I have a friend of mine. We went to Tottenham High. He has a PhD in he's a biochemist. When I bugger talking about stem cell, I went to one of his meetings at the Salk Institution in La Jolla, and he was talking, man. I was like, yeah, that's my buddy. That's my friend. But it was education, and people play with education.
We do as librarian. We do,
So here's biology, and here is these are like the different like chemistries and all of that stuff. So to develop Liberia, we got to go to the basic. You cannot develop a country that is not knowledge based. It's not going to work. You can bring the experts from abroad and make them president. You can bring all your NGO. If you, all of you guys here, you guys, all of us have one thing in common. That's education. That's education. That's what got us here. That's why got us on this. So we need to pass that on. We need to, for me, my solution for Liberia is this. People get offended.
Yeah, that's why that was my next question. But just go right ahead. Right.
I tell them, I say, look, when you pass 20 in Liberia, you're damaged goods. I'm not going to waste too much time on you. You probably do well to go to trade school, go to some adult school, and
that is brutal, but that's the fact.
The investment is too much for me. I don't have time. I don't have time for that. Give me a 5-year-old child. I will put you. You come in the preschool, and when I'm done with you, by the time you get in the first grade, you will be reading. Because I'm not going to teach you SSO, GOGO, LLO. I'm going to teach you the sound that C,
the basics,
right? A,
the phonics.
T. So you can get that concept. When you get in the third grade, you will know your shape, your color. You will know how to read. That's the foundation that is missing. That's the fact. So, we're trying to deal with somebody, like we're trying to deal with a 21-year-old guy. Oh, and then you ask them what grade you in. Oh, I'm in the 7th grade. I'm sorry. Yeah. I would say
here's my question to you.
Go to a trade school and learn a trade. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's my question to you, and I think I posed this question to Elaine earlier. So, what you have going on is that, what I mean, like a blueprint of how we can transform that country, because we've had a generation that went through the war, since I always tell people this, since the 80s, if you were born in the 80s, you never had a strip period where you've gone through without war. From the 80s, we had coup in 89, we had another one in the 80s, 9 years later, we had the war, another 2 wars right after that. So you had, since the 80s, education been disrupted. Up to 40 and 50 years old now, right?
Yes.
Fast forward, we are exactly what we are now, almost 20 years out of war. And I agree with you what you said, and I wouldn't have said it on live, but that's the fact. If you're past 20, you're past 20 years old, and you don't have the basics, you're pretty much just find a trade school. But my question to you here is, I posed the same question to Elaine earlier. You guys have the blueprint of how we can transform this country, and develop a leadership, a group of people that will come out and it will continue in perpetuity. What can you, her, and I think the other guy you mentioned, Eric, right?
Yeah, Eric Wawa.
Right, Eric Wawa.
And there's another lady. There's another lady named Brenda Masida Moore. She has all these reading rooms all over the country.
So how can you guys either team up or propose this idea and bring it either to the Ministry of Education or the government to say, listen, we have tested this. I have tested it personally. I have a 100% passing rate on the WIAT. This is what I've been doing. This is how I want to partner. Either you partner with me to spread it out across the country, or we can pilot. I think you alluded to that. We can pilot it in a district or in a county and see if it doesn't work. 10 years, or give me 5 years or 3 years, do away with me if it doesn't work. How can you take that idea and bring it to the Ministry of Education and make it and scale it and make it across the board?
That's a great idea, but I'm still in the pilot stage. I'm not yet done. This is what I mean. I want to have a high school, like a K-12.
Right.
Right now, I have a K-10. Next year, I'm going to have 11th grade, and the following year, I want to have 12th grade. I want this experiment to go past 12th grade graduate and let those kids sit for the exam, like LU exam or the SAT and all of that stuff.
Right.
Then I'm comfortable. Then my comfort level would be high enough. But like I got into this digital thing because the kids did well and I was excited, and then I wanted to step it up. So now we're gonna have TV or video in every classroom. Okay, and the reason is because these kids, we're probably gonna go back, like the kids that are in the 5th grade right now. We're gonna go back to some of these videos, to some of the elementary, so they can elementary stuff, so they can there you go, so they can grasp it. So you're 100% right. I would love to team up with everybody, but for me, from my perspective, I'm still in the developmental stage.
Right.
I want to ride this thing out
Right.
So like a child from our school can go and speak. 11th grade student can go and give speech and write
Right.
report. And then we can say, yeah, we got something going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So part of the thing we're doing right now, some people might be wondering, what is the secret? A child showed up at 9 o'clock in the morning, around 8:30. They have devotion and they go into the classroom. Every classroom on our campus have teachers. So we have huge instructional time. You're not going to go on campus and see anybody out during school times. So they have first period, second period, third period, I believe. Then they have recess.
That's discipline.
Then after that, they
right?
get back to class.
Yeah.
So that's like every day. And so if you're listening and you're in Monrovia and you're trying to see what you can do, start from that. Start from the basic, whether your cathedral high or whatever school it is. Make sure those kids, when they get on campus, they're not outside. They should be in the classroom, and make sure that the prescribed curriculum is being taught. In other words, instructional time. The time that a child sit in the classroom to learn is very important. So that's a start. The other thing is to make sure that what you're teaching these kids is what is prescribed. Don't just stand in front of the children and teach something else, and they're going to be tested on something else. I don't know. I already mentioned that, but these are just some basic things that people can start. You know what I mean? These kids, when you like a couple of times when I'm in Monrovia and I go on the school campus, the kids are outside. They're all outside. Sometimes I go in the classroom, there's no teachers. I see this all the time when I'm in Monrovia. And so we said we're going to mitigate against that. So that's one of our secrets. But go ahead. Somebody had a question.
So Daniel, let me first of all say, thank God for you. We got to give thanks to the Almighty God first. Thank God for you. Thank God for your life. You are my Tottenham High comrade. I graduated from Tottenham High as well.
Cardinal, the Cardinal.
Yes. You're a cardinal.
All right, you're knock it off. You're knock it off.
Right there.
Now the jealous, they used to come to Tottenham High to our library. We had a library that the LU student used to come to study at because they didn't have a library. So there you go.
Tottenham High is where Tottenham High is where the brave fight and only the strong survive.
Okay.
Oh,
Right?
Lord.
Okay.
Strong are better. But and then on the whole, I like to say thanks for what you're doing in Liberia. This kind of initiative is what a lot of us should be doing, taking our little parts and stuff like that. Yeah. But I have a few questions for you, and I think Gabriel took one away a little bit. They continue it, but let me ask you about. I know you're funding most of the things from yourself. Let me ask you about your infrastructure, right? Any building that sit down needs electricity, needs this, needs that. For example, how are you providing electricity to this building?
Okay.
How are you providing water, pipe-borne water in way deep down in the village like that? I'm asking this question in connection to what Gabriel was trying to allude to in connection to continuity. Yeah, okay. Another portion of that question would be, you were doing this personally, but beyond you, what happens?
Yes.
Right?
So
how this kind of good initiative will go on.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, that's my first question.
That question make me think about my own mortality. That's and a continuity. And I'm fully aware of that. I think about that every day. So to answer the question, the first thing is we have a 30 kilowatts on the campus, a 30 kilowatt generator on the campus. We want to switch to solar panel for renewable energy. So hopefully now that I'm getting this exposure, the people that want to help, the people that are serious about helping with education in Liberia, I would love for you to donate some money so I can buy a solar panel. It costs $30,000 to put solar panel on the campus. So it will eliminate the noise from the generator, and it will be clean energy because we're not going to have smoke going in the air. When you're teaching and the generator running is distracting. So if you're out there, if you're an NGO and you a large organization that can make that donation, we need solar panel. So so the solar panel will power the well. We have a well on the campus, but we have a pump. We bought a pump, an electrical pump, but that pump has to be hooked to an electrical system to pressure the water from the hole, put it in a tank and pressure it to the toilet.
Yeah.
And this is funny, we're trying to teach the kids how to use flush toilet, because some of them, when they flush the toilet, when they hear the noise, they can be scared. So
wow.
Yeah,
wow.
these kids
It's wow.
They're from the villages. They're from the villages, and I'm not trying. It's a little bit funny, when but they, we got to teach them how to use the flush toilet and all of that.
Yeah.
But in terms of continuity,
And you have flush toilet in your schools. In the village, you got flush toilet in the schools.
Yeah, both building has flush toilet. We both of the building.
Wait, give me 1 second, Daniel. Daniel, give me 1 second. Let this sink in. Okay, so your school got flush toilet in the interior. Where some ministries that do not have
I
flush
wanted to
toilet
pounce on that, but he took it right out of my mouth.
The Taji,
Yeah.
your leader one.
Larry, I beg you.
Larry.
Ministry floor.
Larry, I beg you. Let Daniel have his day, please.
I got one more.
Hey, come on, bring it up.
Let Larry have his. Let Daniel have his day.
That's
Larry,
it.
please.
Sorry,
That was perfect. The timing was just perfect.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So for continuity, what we're trying to do is I want to get into the agriculture. I'm talking to the elders to give me more land so we can start some agriculture program. At least the maintenance of the campus, we have 5 custodians that clean the campus every day. So the campus is clean every day. We got to find a way to, 5 custodians and one night security person. They get paid they get paid regularly because I wire the money every month on time so they can get paid. But in terms of continuity, what we're trying to do is I'm trying to set up a consortium with the villagers. We want to survey the land, and then we want to find a way to see if we can use the resource from that land, because we still have a lot of logs on there, because this is tropical rainforest. So if we can start our own logging company where we can actually deal directly with foreigners to sell the logs and then transplant the trees, that's one way. The other way is to start an agriculture program where we grow cassava, planting, and all of these stuff. The cassava from the west are huge because the land is very, very rich. So the short version of your answer is we want to develop a self-sustaining mechanism on the campus.
Sustainable plan.
So people
Because
the people can have ownership in
exactly, because what I'm afraid of is to rely on foreign donation. That never works. It's not foreign donation is never sustainable. What we're looking for is start-up money. If you're a foreigner and you hear me, give up the money so that we can make the farm. We can have a huge farm where we can segment the rice. This rice will grow from March to April, then the other one will grow from April here. So we can have rice crops every year, and we can grow the rice. We can prepare it, and then we can. I was talking to my crew. We can beat the market price. If the people selling burger rice for $50, we sell our own for $30. Because we're not doing this to get rich. We're doing it to have money so that the school can run, so that the school can be self-sustaining. And these are the kind of investment that if President Weah is watching, or some of the ministers are watching this, we want for you to invest in this and give us a shot. Give it a shot. Try us.
Yeah, like for example, you've been trying to ask for teachers.
Yes.
So the government can subsidize, not to give you direct budgetary subsidy, but it could give you teachers. They could give you
exactly.
So in that light, that Mr. Menu here has a great initiative. All Liberians or friends of Liberia or anybody from anywhere, the information is on the board, on the screen here.
Yes.
Daniel Menu is doing a great job in Liberia all by himself. We want people to contribute to whatever way, whether to contribute materials, to contribute if you have connections. If you have your small $20, you can send it by Cash App. You can call in. The Zelle number is on the board. I mean, you can do that as well. This is a great initiative. I couldn't have been so pleased to hear this, and thank you, my cardinal brother. Thank you. But you made a statement that I resonate with because it put me in some kind of trouble in Liberia when I was there. You
Oh boy,
said
hold on, here it comes.
you said what I want you to put it in context because I
Yeah.
understand the meaning behind it. You said the UN, this other, you called some name. You said they should get away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand what you mean because I was in that area before. So can you put it in context within the educational arena and what you're doing? What do you mean by these people should give us chance, right?
What I mean is that they seem to focus on the theoretical thing. They write these reports and they spend millions and millions of dollars. Let me give you an example. I don't need somebody to tell me what caused mosquitoes. They will write a $10 million report to explain what causes mosquitoes, right? And I'm like, guys, come on. We know what caused mosquitoes. We don't need a $10 million report to do. We know that we have a serious educational problem. Look, they spend millions to give us a statistic that 61% of the Liberian population is illiterate. You don't think we know that? Do you
need
see?
to do a whole. You need to spend $10 million to do a whole study to tell us what we already
From behind
know.
the computer. From behind the computer.
Yes. And all you got to do, my brothers, get out of Monrovia, go into a classroom right in Monrovia. So when the United Nations writing these reports about educational crisis, go in. I would ask the U.S. ambassador, look, would you send your child in that classroom? It's that simple.
It's very simple, yeah.
Very simple. You know, in the 60s, let me tell you what America did for us. In the 60s, go to Tottenham High, see what they built for us. That's what we need. Look at Tottenham High building. That's a state-of-the-art infrastructure. Go to G.W. Gibson and go to Newport Street Junior High. They build it. Look at JFK. Look at JFK Hospital. They build it for. They give. That's what we need these days. Somehow the emphasis is now on writing report, doing studies. They came on our campus. Some NGO. I'm not going to call the name. Some big time NGO came on the campus, and they put a chloride in a well. And they said that then I read some report that we're going to eliminate dysentery in Riverside County because And then they wanted to put a sign up on our campus. And anybody driving will see that sign and say, oh, look what the people did. The people built this school. And I told them, get that sign out. Get that sign off the campus. We don't need any Clorox in our water. It's going to make the people's stomach run. We don't have any toxic in this country. We will advise in this area right here, no toxic, no company. All we're going to do is tell the kids to boil the water. It will kill the germ. Yep. Get the water out of the well and boil it to certain degrees. And you don't need Clorox in there because that Clorox, you don't know what it will do to their stomach is not used to it. So going back to what your question was, these are the things that if when I mean, and I was a little bit excited because I get tired of hearing this country give $10 million to Liberia for education, and we don't see the result. You go to Tottenham High, the kids don't have any chairs. Right there, Tottenham High, the windows are dirty, have not been. Look, I saw paint hanging from the ceiling. So where are these funds going? So the practical part is, you want to help us look for what is working and start from there. And for me, it means goes to the grassroots, bypass all these organizations, all these fancy NGOs where they're driving it, because part of the money, 80% of that money go to fix for that $95,000 Jeep they're driving to go to Riverside. That's where the money is going. The money is going to pay for the overheads, right? Instead of doing that, go to Kolahum and go to Bapulo, go to Seclepie. go to Sano, go to River G, and see what is working in a remote area, and target those areas. Because what's going to happen is as you educate those people, they will develop that area themselves. They're not going to come back and overcrowd Monrovia. Wouldn't it be nice for people to say, "Look, man, go to River Said they got 5 schools over there, man. See the guy, a kid in the street selling in the street. Get him off the street and say, go back to River. Where you from? From okay, mom and dad, send your kids back to Riverside.
There's better schools there, right?
You get better schools there.
Yeah,
Get them off the street.
You know, Daniel, when we spoke, there was one thing that you were pretty clear. Let me just say something real quick, and then I'll swing it over to you, Alex. When I spoke to Daniel, there was something you were pretty clear about, because when you start talking about innovation and innovative ideas on how to improve, how to bring development, things like that, people panic and they think you have political ambition. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yes. So let me tell you the trick. I was on the Coastal Show yesterday, and I had received 5 phone calls petitioning me to run. And I was the first person, I was nice. The second person, I got angry. I told into him. So a couple of years ago,
Henry Costa Show, right?
Yeah, Henry Costa Show. I'm sorry, Henry Costa Show. They called me. A couple of people called me. We want to petition you to run. I said, man, I almost cursed him out. The Holy Spirit told me to be nice. Because when I tell people I don't want to be, I'm not into politics. I'm an educator. I'm a fiscal guy.
Yep.
I don't want to be senator. Yeah. I don't want to be governor. I don't want to be nothing. I want to be able to educate my people. Give them an education and give them a fighting chance. We have a lot of underprivileged kids in those villages, right?
Yeah.
And so but to answer the question, I told them first of all, I got a phone call from the last senatorial seat when they were running. I think Wellington G. Van Smith won the current senator. When that seat was open, the people from Bojise Town, Gliozon, because my dad. The people know me very well by first name because my dad used to preach in our whole region, that whole Moet region. My grandfather is from there. He has my great grandfather is Boy Zama. He's a friend of Bodo Vietnam. When you hear Bodo Vietnam, Bojise Town, all those people, those are my grandfather's, my great grandfather's people. Oh. So they know me with first name. And I could, if I wanted to be a politician, I could run and it would be a landslide. There would not even be a competition without the school, without that school. Because they know me in that region when I was a kid. I used to be very sharp. Back in those days, they used to call me Bible because I could memorize the Bible. You quote verses. Wow. So, yeah.
That's why you want to talk about.
And my mom was a midwife, and she delivered most of the kids in our region. But to get back to your question, so they called me, my man, we want you to be the senator. So I asked him why. Well, I said, but I'm not a politician. I said just because I build a school doesn't qualify me to be senator. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. And I felt sorry for him. I felt compassion for him. I don't want to be senator. I am not a politician.
Yes.
I want to fight illiteracy, and I can't do it being a politician.
Yep.
Because if I was a senator, I would be concerned about what's going on in Session City. I would be concerned about, oh, my man, you got to go here. So and so happened here. Or, Mr. Senator, we need you. My house, I will not even sleep because I went to the senator's house, Senator Wellington G. Van Smith. I felt sorry for the guy. I mean, at his private residence, there were people that they just packed there.
I
wanted to say, Mr. Senator, get his bugger out of here and get some rest.
Alex, you had a question.
Wow. But to answer your question, no, I'm not interested in politics. And please tell your audience, nobody should call me to recruit me for any political position. Even George, I don't want any job from you, Mr. Weah. If you want to help me, just give us some funding, give me some donation. Let me build school in Moet. Let me build some in your hometown in Sano County. I can duplicate this for you, Mr. President, if you're hearing me. Go ahead.
Alex.
Thank you, Conway. You spoke well, and my advice to you also to get yourself out of the politics stuff. You want to do something for your community. You want to do something your passion tells you is education. Just do it and forget about the politics. Because I had the same experience doing some stuff in Nigeria in the community from where I come, and the same political building. I kept telling them, look, I don't want to be a representative. I just want to serve people. I just want to provide service to people. But the reason why I ask you that question with a statement is to capture what to put in context what you just said too. I had the same experience with the agriculture, right? We take all these funds, right? They said they give you 25 million, they give you 30 million here. But at the end of the day, when I did some work, at the end of the day, only 10%, 10 to 20% of that money goes to the real costs for which they're giving you the money, right? They can't, who told you say we're not educated? Maybe after the war that will pass, but 20 years or plus after the war, no, Liberia has capacity. They'll pass it through the NGO because they say we don't have capacity. And about 50 to 60% of that money is going back to the NGO.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember I negotiated a contract where NGO was involved. I was able to save the overhead. I was able to save the country $3 million just because a lot of money were going to the overheads of those people that were bringing. Right. So you're right. I mean, we gave $30 million to World Food Program to divide food, something that we don't do ourselves. We gave, all these different NGOs. So you look at a person like you could be used, right? Your foundation or whatever could be used. So I just wanted to say, add that part to what you're saying. That's why I got that portion.
Great point. And I think the reason why I like Mr. Manwan is that he's like me. You're from the bush, so we don't beat around the bush. If it gotta be if from the bush, so we don't beat around the bush, right?
Beat around the bush.
If it gotta be said, you say it and you hold your peace.
That's right.
And you need people like that. You need people who are brass, intentional about what they want to do, and say, "This is what I want to do. I don't want to cut corners. I don't want you trying to petition me to run for senatorial seat or to get into politics. Just put me in my lane. Let me do what I want to do." And I think we need people. We need more people like you. I honestly do. And I will keep saying this. I hope you, sis Elaine. There's another doctor, Dr. Jackie, who actually has another show on here. There's another guy in Minnesota who is very passionate about education. I hope you guys can connect. Huh?
That's Zizi Goya and Jackie.
Zizi Goya, yeah. See, so there's a when I mean educational brain of people who understand it from a developmental standpoint, from a practical standpoint, and from a policy standpoint, who can actually make a headwind into the country educational system.
I want to say this before we go. I want to say thank you to the teachers. I want to say thank you to the administrators. I have a guy named UJ. He's a Liberian guy from Mowe. He built that campus, by the way. We didn't use any foreign NGO. It was built by people from Mowe. That school building you're looking at. And then his cousin is David Blade. So UJ Blade, thank you for a job well done for building that. He graduated from Tottenham High. So it was Liberian labor that built that campus. So if anything happened, this whole building had built by a Liberian guy. Kid, his name is UJ Blade. And then David Blade is the guy who managed the affairs. He pays the teachers and everything. And I wanted to give a shout out.
Are they brothers?
No, they're cousin.
They're cousins. Okay.
Yeah, they're cousin. So they built this right here. So
nice.
Yeah. But I want to thank you guys for this opportunity. I don't know if it is time to go, but before we go, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate this, and hopefully we can have more of these kind of topics, because I was impressed with the lady that you had on first. What was her name?
We're planning to get you guys together. We'll connect you guys.
Right. Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
We'll connect you guys on another program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, just want to programming note, a couple of things, folks, real quick. You want to support, and Daniel mentioned it, keeping this program alive long after. And Daniel, of course, we wish you a long life, because what you've done, I think you've inspired a lot of people. But anyone, we pray that people will certainly support your program. The Cash App is up on the screen. And just wanted to add a programming note, something Daniel mentioned earlier in terms of solar panels. So on 2 weeks from now, I know next week we have the film producer, Gerald Barkley, is going to be with us. But 2 weeks from now, on September the 10th, we're going to have Judge Bill Littlejohn. We're going to be discussing solar panels. This is a retired judge from Ohio, retired from Texas. Judge Bill Littlejohn loves Liberia. He loves Liberia so much, he has a farm in Liberia. A retired judge from the U.S. He has a farm in Liberia. He's been doing school. And let me just say another thing. Because he is so much into doing solar panels and helping schools, hospitals in Liberia, the judge went back to a community college to learn how to install solar panels. So when he comes to Liberia, he can help. Unbelievable, amazing. So Judge Bill Littlejohn would be with us on September the 10th. In fact, his granddaughter, who just graduated, I believe magna cum laude over from University of Houston, she has a job working with a solar panel company, and they were recently in Benin. So they're looking to do solar panels in other parts of Africa as well. So he would be a great guest to have. Daniel, hopefully you will be able to watch us, and I'll try to connect you with the judge so he can see the work that you're doing, and then that can also help with your, education in Liberia. So solar panels is a big thing. We're going to be discussing that on September 10th.
Can I just say one thing real quick? We need internet access on the campus. That's if I had internet access on the campus, I have a lot of scientists like PhD doctors and biochemists that can be teaching physics from here. So I need help to get out there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
so that's great. I mean, I'm glad you're saying that. I don't know if Dennis can share this screen, because you sit along with the government of Liberia and Google, Alphabet, the parent company of Google. They're connecting with a company called C Squared. C Squared has a program now where they're looking to put internet throughout Liberia. Well, they're starting in Monrovia. So it's a program that was successful, right? And because the U.S. government believes that just by bringing high-speed internet into Liberia, you can boost GDP by at least 2 to 3 percentage points, it will also reduce the cost of having hospitals. Hospitals now, it costs them so much money in terms of data to look up information. Having high-speed internet reduces the cost of internet access. And what you're saying, Daniel, it would greatly improve education in the country. I saw a few comments over here. People are willing to volunteer to teach in a school. So with internet, you have a lot of people teaching remotely.
Let me say that with the internet.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, let me give you one last comment. With the internet, we can even give a link into any students in Liberia. That, let's say, for example, let's say we're trying to show Albert Einstein law of relativity, right? That link will be on our website. I can text that to my high school students. Say, look, man, if you don't understand anything, just go to this website. It's there. That's with the internet connection. That's how powerful you can build a platform to educate the country just on that platform. Yep. With the content, the educational content. But anyway, we'll talk about it next time. So the potential for providing education deliverable on the internet is the sky is the limit with the internet access.
Yeah. So Gabriel, I'll pass it over to you. I believe it's a wrap. I just want to say thanks to all you guys for being here, and thanks so much to Daniel and Elaine for the help. So over to you, Gabriel.
Again, Mr. Melwan, thank you for joining us. I hope this is not your last time. I hope you can join us every time. As I think we mentioned earlier, we have a group of other people that would like to connect you with, including Elaine, the lady who was on the show earlier. But thank you. This is great information. Before we close, do you have any last comment that you'd like to leave us with? No.
Thank you all. Yeah. Yes.
All right. On that note, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you. I'm sure we will be connecting with you to for future shows. I think we Dennis, who actually owns the Focus on Liberia, is very intentional to having you on another program with all educational people. So people in your element, I'm sure you'll would love to be on that show. So we'll be connecting with you to do that. Again, thank you for being with us. do you guys have any other parting comments before we wrap up?
I'm good.
I just
Thanks,
salute,
Gabriel.
I just salute, man.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you, man.
On that note, as we always say, regardless whether you think what we're talking about is important to Liberia or it is not, one common denominator that makes us that we all have in common is that we're all Liberians, and everything that we do is to move the needle 1 inch in events in Liberia.
Yes.
So on that note, we will see you next Saturday, and thank you for joining us. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our